Welcome everybody. Welcome back to the symposium, Awakening to Humanity's Sacred Mission, an International Symposium and Call to Action. What a beautiful session we had earlier today. And absolutely amazing that this is an international symposium. We went through and saw there were 86 countries represented in the people that have registered for this global event. So delighted that the first session was so powerful, Ervin Laszlo and the other speakers. And if you didn't get a chance to catch it, look out for the links of that coming to you very soon. But we're going to start with a recap, a synthesis of what happened back in session one. Again, my name is Ben Bowler from Unity.earth. On behalf of all of the partner organizations, we welcome you to this second session of this symposium. And I'm delighted to introduce now one of the key leaders really in the collaboration that's brought all this together, Dr. Julie Krull from Good of the Whole and the Connection Field, a partner, a sponsor, also the Coherence Council. So many gifts, Julie, that you have brought to all of us through this symposium. So it's delightful to begin today with a synthesis of what happened back in session one just a few hours ago.
Thank you, Ben. Let's use this synthesis as a little coherence practice ourselves. I encourage everyone to just take a couple conscious, heart-filled breaths as we go on a little journey of synthesis. I've just taken threads. We're pulling a golden thread from each session all the way through. And I've taken little snippets of the voice of all of these leaders, these visionaries that showed up this morning, and also some of the voices in the room from our community. So sit back, take a few conscious breaths, and we begin with the big breath and the golden thread. We've come together to weave our golden threads in sacred mission through a unitive tapestry of love and consciousness. The ongoing big breath continues to breathe through us. Pause. Look inside towards stillness. In our shared intention to waken our sacred mission, we begin within, with the heart that knows, the heart that deeply feels. Humanity's sacred mission is all about love and consciousness, says Ervin Laszlo. There's a coherent evolutionary process, and the process is us. And the process created us and continues to create us. This is a dance. We are in a dance with the universe through nature, the biosphere, and all living things. We're in a dance with the planets and beyond. This is the dance of coherence. Consciousness is growing and emerging in the universe, and we are growing, evolving. Rest in the awareness of unity, harmony, and coherence. We've entered the dawning unitive age, a time of unitive consciousness in action. Our work in the world is wholeness in motion. We're living within an unfolding and enfolding process. Our sacred mission is to know who we are, divine beings. May the love and consciousness of Source be expressed through us. We're feeling an evolutionary impulse, a pressure. We're sensing something, and it's driving us deeper within. We're sensing an expansion of who we are. Let us create the conditions for the expansion to occur. We must go deeper within to integrate and create the conditions for something new to emerge, something brand new. Slow down. Create your own space. Get into your heart. From the heart, we move into engagement and empowerment. Let us nurture more human-centric solutions. We are transforming chaos into something beautiful. Look around. It's happening. Our sacred mission response carries this humanitarian spirit. We are alive in a living, loving universe filled with compassion. Let us co-create with joy, deep listening, presence, and coherence. Gratitude and forgiveness are essential in this conscious evolution. So, let us evolve our thought leadership into heart leadership as our inner work is creating a new state of being. Do the small things with great love. Know there are many loving, compassionate, and brilliant humans on the ground building solutions right now. Have faith. Something new is emerging, and it starts within each one of us. And there is your synthesis from session 1. Thanks, Ben.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Julie Krull. Thank you for the beautiful weaving of the essences together. There was a lot of great elements, the speakers and the engagement throughout session 1 that you've beautifully captured there, Julie. So thank you for bringing that essence to the beginning of today, session 2, which is all around implementation. And I know that we have so many people that are passionate about that execution, manifestation, implementation, whatever, by whatever name we call it. It's basically engagement, getting it done. And we've got some of the best speakers in the world on this subject today. We're very, very blessed. So let's dive straight into it. And our first speaker today is going to be a duo coming live from after midnight in Hungary. It's Alessandro Farina and Giacomo Pedranzini. Let me just tell you a little bit about these extraordinary gentlemen. Alessandro Farina is the founder and managing director of ITL Group, one of the leading consulting accounting firms in Hungary since 1995. In 2014, Alessandro Farina was awarded by the President of the Italian Republic Officer of the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic for his personal contribution to the improvement and development of economic relations between Hungary and Italy. Mr. Farina comes from an Italian family with a long entrepreneurial tradition that goes back 2 centuries. So from a young age, he's learned that entrepreneurs have a moral obligation to their predecessors and to future generations for building a better world. He calls this moral obligation an ESC approach, stands for ethics, sustainability, and creativity. These are the values that are inspired the foundation of Atlas World. And we'll hear a little bit about that through Alessandro's sharing today. His colleague, Giacomo Pedranzini, is the CEO and chairman of the board of directors of Cometa 99, a Hungarian registered company in the agribusiness sector with a headcount of 1,000 employees. Pedranzini is the creator and promoter of the Honest Food movement, which proposes a rethinking of conventional agribusiness. The mission of Honest Food focuses on 3 goals: ethical food production, fair distribution of value throughout the supply chain, and environmental responsibility. Furthermore, through his innovative thinking, he is tackling preventative industry issues and fostering collaborations among stakeholders. Due to his engagement in community dialogues and efforts towards industry enhancement, he was recently recognized as the winner of the Expat CEO 2022 and of the Atlas Awards 2023. So Alessandro, Giacomo, implementation. You two are so well qualified to begin this session today. We're delighted that you're with us, staying up past midnight to be with us. Thank you for doing that, and welcome to the symposium.
Thank you so much for this lovely introduction, and it's a very big honor for us to be part of this fantastic initiative with all of you. As you say, it's midnight, and we feel a little bit like a New Year's Eve. So when everything is sparkling for the new year, And somehow we are here to celebrate the awakening for a better future and what is looking forward for us. So thank you. If you allow me, I will share the screen and have a short presentation. So we have put our focus on entrepreneurship, and we're going just to have a few, let's say, words about that, because we believe that the definition of the good entrepreneur should not just be the business creator, but the entrepreneur should also be the architect of the future. So what he does is influencing in an effective way the future of our, let's say, economy, of our society. And he should also be a guardian of the planet, as we all should be, by the way. So it's a common role that we should share from this point of view. The entrepreneur is, if you allow me just kind of, let's say, comparison for that, when Michelangelo was breaking his piece of stone, and he was already able to see into the stone the statue that he wanted to create. And entrepreneurs have, or should have also, this same vision. So to build what is not existing today, but what is going to influence also our society. And entrepreneurs have also, on the other side, let's say that they should not just look for the profit or profitable activity, but they should also look for a sustainable and beneficial, basically, future for our generation. So we believe that generational empathy is not just a concept, but is a business imperative that people should take care of. As Ben mentioned at the beginning, we put our, let's say, attention on three core values that we feel very close to our personality, to our way of being entrepreneur and conducting our business. So the three basic principles are ethics, sustainability, and creativity. Now we use this acronym ESC also with the purpose, because we like to play with this word, because it's the same name of the button that you have on the keyboard of the computer, that is to exit the status quo of what you are doing. And we mentioned the Atlas Award. The Atlas Award is one of the initiatives of the Atlas World that we gave live a few years ago. And the Atlas Award is the one that we are going to talk today. Because, you know, often when I talked with friends and I told, okay, can you please tell me, let's say, an example of an entrepreneur or a leader that you would like to give as a good example for your son? Okay, so who should he follow? Who is a good, let's say, example to follow? And very often, unfortunately or sadly, silence was coming. So people were not able to give an opinion, not to recognize themselves close to somebody else who had, let's say, embraced the vision of the good, let's say, example. So they were giving names of people died 100 years ago, or people from the other side of the universe, but nobody close to us. So because of that, a few years ago, we gave life to this award with the intention to reward entrepreneurs who are embracing this vision, this, let's say, these values. And so this award has become a stage on which we can show and, let's say, inspire people by choosing every year a visionary or somebody who did a strong impact for the society. Here you see the, let's say, the Atlas Award statue that is an opera created by a well-known Italian artist, Marco Veronese. And you see the photo of Lyashik Dimitri, who was the winner in 2022, who is an entrepreneur, independent filmmaker, environmental activist, a fantastic person. You can find his movie even on Netflix already about it. And In 2023, we had the pleasure and the honor to have also Ervin Laszlo as our speaker. He was delivering a fantastic speech about the role of the entrepreneur in the modern society. So we had a really fantastic time together on that. And in 2023, as mentioned even before, Giacomo Pedranzini was the winner for the Atlas Award. After we have quite a large jury with the professors and several good team basically deciding the winners. And I think that now I will hand over my chair to Giacomo, who will enlighten you with why Giacomo and what is his story about it. Giacomo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alessandro. Good day, everybody. I'm happy and honored to be here with you. I will talk to you about food production. There is just a good reminder from Hippocrates about the importance of food as something that can help us to stay healthy in our lives, to keep our body healthy. So I'm the son of a farmer, and from my childhood and from my youth, we were dealing with animal breeding and later on with food production. For the last 30 years, I am leading Cometa, a food processing company, especially a meat processing company operating in Hungary. As you can see, in the middle of Europe, in the heart of the Carpathian basins. This is now a nice picture about our planet, where we have to live all together. This is our common house, according to the words of Pope Francis, where we have to find a way to give a future to the humanity. So we have to feel the responsibility to take care, to respect this planet on which we live, and to transfer to the next generation, if possible, even better than the status we have got from the previous one. Food production, it is the activity that is naturally related to the human being. I would say that is the most important human activity, because without food, we cannot survive. And of course, to produce food, we have to make good use of our earth, of our planet. Food production can have a very positive impact on the planet if it is properly done, but at the same time, it can have a negative impact if it is not done in the proper way. We should consider and remember that for many, many long centuries, humanity was struggling to have enough food. Till more or less half of the previous century, we were still struggling. We were still dying because of hunger or famine. Then suddenly, in the last 60 years, human development, human progress, technological development made for majority of humanity food easily available, even in bigger quantities that we really need. So food became a very simple commodity, a very cheap commodity. When I say about cheap commodity, please consider that very often, it happens that we pay pet food more than what we pay for our food. But we should not forget the importance of having good and healthy foods. We should not forget that foods is nurturing the perfect machine, as Leonardo da Vinci was considering what the human body, was calling the human body. We should fight to give back the right position and the right value to food. Unfortunately, in the last 60 years, going for mass production, we focus a lot on volumes in order to have cheap price, in order to have cheaper and cheaper foods. And the results we reach are the following you can see on the screen. In some case, excess of pollution, like you see on the Po Valley in Italy, or in these days, in many European countries, farmers protesting because the price that we pay for the food they produce is not enough. So this is the results we came, focusing on volume production for cheap price. And leading the company I'm responsible for, already 10 years ago, I realized that this is not the way for the future, that we have to change our focus. And that's the way, and that's the reason why I developed this concept of honest food. What is honest food? Honest food is proposing to reconsider the production model, to find a middle way in between the conventional industrial food production and the organic production. Both of them, they are a bit of two extremes. So let's find a good way in the middle based on common sense and good balance. And there are mainly three main goals for honest food. The first, very important, we have to put on family tables tasty, healthy, and affordable foods. We have to enjoy when we eat, but we have also to get convinced that we are eating healthy and something that is good for our body. And last but not least, food has to be good, food has to be affordable. It cannot be a luxury only for the wealthy people. It should be, if possible, for all, or at least the big majority of the population. Second, very important, we have to fight to redistribute in a more fair way the value through the production chain. This protest we see today in Europe is because in the last 20, 30 years, especially farmers and breeders were paying the price of this very cheap food. They were not able to survive in many cases out of their activity, and many territories in the disadvantaged area were abandoned. So that's the point, to rebalance the distribution and to give the possibility to farmers to go on with their activity and to maintain our territory. This is also the social function of agriculture and of farming. And once more, last but not least, if we can reach this first two goals, healthy and affordable foods, in a good environment, we will turn to have an healthier society, on a healthier planet, and so it will be a benefit for all of us. To close my part and to indicate something, we always tend to expect changes from someone else. So what is the call to action from each of us? We should not forget that the change should start from each of us, that the world, the planet on which we are living today, is the results of our decision in terms of food consumption in the previous year. So the world we will live in the future, it will be the results of what we decide to eat from now on. So let's be responsible, let's be careful, let's choose the right food, the right production model. We are guaranteeing a future for our society. I thank all of you for your attention, and I give back the floor to Alessandro for a short closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We hand over back the word. Thank you so much. Ben, I give you back the floor.
Wonderful, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Giacomo and Alessandro, for that brilliant presentation. We're so grateful to have you gentlemen who have really executed and implemented so much as business leaders in Hungary and Europe, and what you've done. And this issue of food security may well be, or food production, healthy food production, may be one of the most powerful issues of our time. Some of us were in Dubai in December for COP28 discussions, and this issue around food supply is a pressing one for all of humanity in every continent and every country. So thank you for bringing it to our symposium today, and for bringing the power of business and the power of entrepreneurship when it's aligned to ethics and to a higher intention of leaving a legacy and making the world a better place. As powerful as that is, really the great fire of business and entrepreneurship can be something which, like any fire, can destroy if it's a master, or it can serve greatly when it's a servant. So we appreciate you gentlemen sharing so deeply. Giacomo and Alessandro, thank you for staying up past midnight to come and share those messages with us. We very much appreciate that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Implementation at scale is what's required. So we take lessons and learn the great optimism of what is possible when we come together and align. So our next speaker is someone who has also dedicated her life to the soul of money and the spirit of money and how it can be a force for good in people's lives. Sarah McCrum is a coach specializing in working with game changers and conscious entrepreneurs. She's author of the book, Love Money, Money Loves You. She spent 23 years teaching and coaching business owners and their families to solve the gritty human problems that prevent them from finding fulfillment in the business and their life. Sarah is co-originator of Love To, doing incredible things. And I hope we get to hear a little bit about Love To. It's absolutely brilliant what's taking place there and fascinating. She's also founder of Liberate Humanity. Both these businesses are examples of the principles of her book, Love Money, Money Loves You. Sarah McCrum, it's wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you, Ben. I too am an entrepreneur. A little later, I'll show you how what we do links with what we've just been hearing about affordable and healthy and honest food. To start off with, I'd like to play a recording, which is really an artistic expression of how we could express our sacred mission as human beings, and also leading into my sacred mission. And what I'd like you to do as you listen to this recording, rather than just listening to it, is ask yourself as you listen, how do we put this into business? How do we put this into the economy?
We are the breath of
We're going
life.
to hear some music starting very soon.
You and I. We are in the wind. We are in the trees. We are in the soil. We are in the rivers and the lakes and the seas. We are the breath of life, you and I. We move together through space, through the stars, and home again. We breathe as one and as two. We breathe life in. We breathe life out. We breathe together. And we breathe apart. We breathe life for each other. We see, we know, We breathe. We are the breath of life. As it breathes. So we breathe. We are the breath of life, you and I.
The music was composed by Gary Malkin, and the art is called Singing Life into Being by Niko Dumovic. So I could summarize my sacred mission as uniting the spiritual and the material. I found that if things get too spiritual, we get disconnected from our life. And if we get too material, our life begins to feel empty and purposeless. And so it's when we unite the two together, which is the enormous challenge of being human, that we actually get to live a fulfilled and very alive life, and also often a challenging life. I've chosen to do that in business, and especially around the topic of money. Money is really the essence of material. It represents material without being any kind of material. And it's also often been the thing that is seen as being the furthest away from spirituality. And to me, if we can see the sacredness in money, if we can see the sacredness in our economy and all of our economic activity, we are then naturally motivated to work towards a healthier and more sacred economy that unites the spiritual and the material aspects of our lives. I see the possibility through the businesses that I'm involved with of building an economy that is fundamentally about investing in well-being and wealth. It is creating more well-being for all participants in life, all of what we affect on this planet. And it is building wealth, a genuine, true wealth that enables more well-being. And there is immediately a virtuous cycle. More well-being creates more desire to work and contribute, which creates more wealth, which creates more well-being when the economy is aligned in the right way. So how do we do that in an economy where currently a dead tree is more valuable than a living tree? I have a friend who has a piece of land with trees on it. His father wants him to sell them, and he wants to keep them. And how does he make that economically viable? Extracted minerals are way more valuable than living ecosystems who produce those minerals in the first place. And currently, death and sickness and destruction are big economic drivers. Health, we tend to take care of for ourselves at a much smaller level. It's easier to be, it's easy, you get more money invested if you're sick than if you do to be healthy. So we fundamentally have what we can call a death-focused economy rather than a life economy. So we looked at how we can change that. Love2 is a group of companies that have come together around this mission to change the way that we value things so that we can actually value what is truly valuable to us as human beings. Because we can say we value nature, but if we don't put our money into it, we don't value it, actually. Money is one of the primary ways that we express value, along with our time, along with the other things that we can invest. And what we found is that there was no business model for doing it. The capital is over here, all the money. The farmers and the land managers are all over here doing their thing, the regenerative ones doing it beautifully, and there's no way for them to meet because there are problems around scale. Farming is very unpredictable. There are droughts and all kinds of issues like that. And so investors don't really like to invest in farming unless they can control it. And to create a healthy food system, you can't have that level of control. So what we wanted to do was build a business model that enabled a system solution, an actual system for being able to bring large-scale capital into living ecosystems, human and other living systems, all of that together. We've started with what's called Love to be Bright Green, which is about spreading regenerative farming and also the conservation of nature across the planet by bringing large-scale capital to that particular change. And the current systems just were not up to it. So the first one is that the evaluation systems we have at the moment are not holistic. At very best, we measure carbon, which is one single measure. We don't look at the whole ecosystem. And very often people are trying to put a value on the price of a tree without any recognition of what that tree is doing and what it's supported by all around it. So we wanted to make a holistic evaluation system, which we succeeded in doing by looking at the work that human beings do to look after the environment. We know how to value people's work. We know how to measure improvements in the environment. And so we can actually value the work that human beings do and make that work rewarded and also have the dignity that it deserves, because they are not only providing food, but also fresh air, clean water, healthy soil, biodiversity, and all the other things that we rely on for life. The next thing we needed to do was turn ecological improvement into an asset, something that the financial markets could engage with at scale. And we're very lucky, because of the decentralized finance movement across the world, that we are now able to tokenize assets. In fact, many governments are moving towards tokenizing, so issuing digital tokens for all physical assets. So we now create digital tokens that represent real ecological improvement on the ground. They enable the ecology to stay in place, and they enable the money to move around the world. Those tokens are called bright greens for a very obvious reason. The third thing we needed to do was develop a regenerative business model, a model that actually doesn't end up forcing you into making decisions that are bad for the environment when you're trying to protect it. Most current business models, they're so strong on favoring shareholders that they don't allow businesses to make wise decisions. They make profit-only driven decisions. We've developed a model that is not a denial of profit. It brings profit together with regeneration. It enables a kind of self-balancing system where we're able to manage the risks that typically go with investment and reduce the risks, and at the same time balance the value and the price that people pay, so the value of shares, the value of the tokens. It's all rather complex, so I can't explain it, but it actually solves the problem of either the speculation that you see with a lot of tokenization these days, where values have no connection with real life, and it solves the problem of the traditional old-fashioned business models. So basically, we start as a business. We are currently Love to be Bright Green, a business. We have a product to sell, which is bright greens. And we have created a model that we can see can be embedded potentially all the way from, for example, in Hungary, the work that's being done there to recognize the work of farmers, all the way up to an economic model that enables an entire economy to value the living systems that it relies on, to make money out of that will drive the economy. And so we satisfy the investors and we satisfy the need for a healthy environment on our planet. So it has been very important for us to take action, and it is very important for you to take action, because it's together that we are the solution. I live in a world where people often say, oh, we'll wait for Sarah and Tim Bennett, my business partner, to find all the solutions, and then we would love to get involved.
Sorry, Sarah. Mick, could you just stop screen sharing for a minute? Because that's actually coming up on the broadcast. I know that's not your intention, but it is coming up. So if you're able to just stop that, we'll go back to Sarah for my last minute or so. Thanks, Mick.
So, yes, people often wait for somebody else to get everything sorted out before they want to take action. We found that we couldn't wait for leaders. We couldn't wait for other business people. We couldn't wait for the financial systems. We couldn't wait for anything, except we just had to wait for ourselves. And so we went into action. And now what I see is that the key to making all of this work is that people who can contribute, who can do something, we get together and we build the pieces. Many of them are built all over the world already. We work together to make the whole thing work and become a solution that values life. If you're thinking, what can I do? There are two things that I think you can do. First, turn your inner economy into an investment economy rather than a wasting and spending economy. And then from there, you can invest in two things. You can invest in learning about money. What is money really? And you can invest your money in anything that really aligns with your values. Understand the power of money. What you spend your money on, even little bits, really counts. Align it with your values, and that will change the world. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sarah McCrum. Thank you for that. Love to is an extraordinary example of doing implementation at scale. And it's great to see the synergy between the first couple of speakers there. I think it'd be great to connect with Giacomo and Alessandro, what you're doing. I know Sarah didn't have time to get to all of it, but there is a lot of Dutch agriculturalists which are really connecting strongly to this concept, and it'd be fascinating to broaden that into other European contexts. So thank you for that. Synergy is here with us, and really appreciate you, Sarah, being part of the symposium. Love your work. You're doing incredible things. Our next speaker is Mick Sheldrick, who is an Australian. He's actually coming to us live from the Australian Embassy. Love the background, Mick. That's a pretty flush looking background you got there at the Embassy in Washington, DC. I've been following Michael's career for a while now. Michael Sheldrick is a policy entrepreneur and a driving force behind the efforts of Global Citizen to end extreme poverty. As co-founder and chief policy impact and government affairs officer, he leads the organization's campaigns to mobilize support from governments, businesses, and foundations. He's the author of a brand new book, the upcoming Amazon bestseller, From Ideas to Impact, a playbook for influencing and implementing change in a divided world. It's going to be published in just a couple of months on April 9th, but we're going to be giving away 7 books today. So stay really tune into what Mick's saying, because there's going to be a quiz afterwards. With a career that spans the world of pop and policy, Michael has worked with an impressive roster of international artists such as Beyonce, Coldplay, Idris and Sabina Elba, Lady Gaga, Miley Cyrus, Priyanka Chopra, Rihanna, and Usher, as well as prominent political leaders, including Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley, former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and former Australian Prime Ministers Julia Rudd and Kevin Rudd. Mick, it's great to have you with us. Thank you for making time to join the symposium. Congratulations on the book, and we're looking forward to hearing what you've got to share. From Ideas to Impact is the name of the book, and this is a perfect subject for us today as we focus on implementation. Mick Sheldrick.
Well, thank you, and really thank you, Ben. Ben, I just want to make sure, how long have I got? Because I know you are.
You got a good 8 to 10 minutes. You got a good 8 to 10 minutes as planned. So if you can do it in 8, that's great. Okay, no worries. Well, really appreciate you all. Really thank you all. I'm coming here from live Washington, DC, where we've just had a fantastic event here, actually on the same issue of implementation. And, you know, one of the things I've been saying around the world right now is Global Citizen released a report last year called the Global Solidarity Report. And what that showed is that in overwhelming majorities, people around the world, whether you're in America, Nigeria, India, or Australia, identify as global citizens. What we see by and large is people are ahead of where their leaders are. But what we see at the same time, while people are still willing to give democracy, the UN, and other key institutions the benefit of the doubt, what we also see is that people by and large also say that they don't see how the performance of these institutions are having an impact in their own lives. And so I believe we've got a window of opportunity where we can channel this momentum, this good faith, and actually overcome people's doubts and show performance, but it won't last forever. And so I call this crisis of implementation.
And in my book, From Ideas to Impact, I outline 8 principles of what I call policy entrepreneurship. Policy entrepreneurship is the idea that you don't have to be a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. You don't have to be tied to a big institution, but you can be an everyday citizen who cares about these issues, and you can have a profound impact on the biggest policy challenges of our time. And I'm going to share with you just a few brief ideas of what we're discussing here. But firstly, very brief overview of why I wrote this book. You know, as Ben said, like Ben, I'm from Australia. And, you know, I remember growing up and, you know, going to bring this to analogy at high school. I wasn't great at sports, right? There was many, you know, when I was growing up, there were many great examples of, you know, sporting heroes, sporting legends that in Australia we idolized. And when we would do motivational talks at our school, we would usually get in one of these sporting heroes. You know, we would have an Olympic gold medalist, an Australian football rules legend come and speak to us, and it would be really inspiring. But if you were like me, you would be sat in the audience and you would be thinking, well, this is all well and good. You've already achieved your trophy. You've achieved your gold medal. But if you're like me, who can't kick a footy in the right direction, how would this make an impact? And I could imagine, you know, when we've had people reaching out saying, how can you make a difference in policy change? What we've built at Global Citizen is a platform of 11 million members around the world. We have an audience of over 100 million reach. We're in 150 countries. And I was like, you know, I didn't want the idea that in order to influence policy, which is fundamentally about people, you know, to give the idea or impression that you need to launch your own huge organization in order to do that. So the book is really a start, and it's a start of 8 principles. And I'm going to walk you through a few of them right now with some examples. And the first is what I always say is the power of knowing your goal. Now, knowing your goal, what I say is it's about having a SMART goal. It's about having a goal which is clear, it's concise, it's very, very visible in terms of how you can make an impact. One of my favorite examples of this is Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados. This is a country which, you know, I think you would have to, in terms of its GDP, in terms of American cities, you would have to scroll all the way through America's top 300 cities until you got to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, to find a city that's comparable with the size of Barbados economy. And yet the leader of this small nation of 300,000 people is having a profound impact on the global stage. And why is that? You know, Prime Minister Mottley is not the first leader of a small island nation to talk about the impacts of climate change. And yet the reason why her agenda has gotten so much traction on the global stage comes from the fact that last year at the UN, she told an audience, she said, simplicity gets us to the end. If we campaign on everything, we will lose. And what she's launched is this initiative called the Bridgetown Initiative. And the Bridgetown Initiative at its core asks the question, it said, okay, during the pandemic, wealthy nations, right, printed billions of dollars in money in order to stimulate their economy. And in America, for instance, America was able to give people paying mortgages basically the opportunity to defer payment on those mortgages, right, until after the pandemic had ended. They gave a break to students repaying their student loans. And there's evidence to suggest that's what kept the American economy afloat. And she said, well, for nations like hers on the front lines of the climate crisis, if you're in the Dominican Republic, which, for instance, had its whole economy wiped away in a matter of days by a hurricane in 2017, or if you're in Malawi, which last year through Cyclone Freddie literally saw the world's longest lived cyclone, longest lived. It lasted 48 hours. And if you're that country where it sat on you for 48 hours and it killed in that period over 1,200 people and left farms devastated, it destroyed over 300 bridges. If you're these countries, right, you faced a dual challenge of how to respond to a crisis that you didn't cause, and yet at the same time, you're also repaying huge amounts of debt, right? In Malawi's case, a quarter of its entire revenues annually is going towards paying its loans. How can you respond to these crises? And so she, basically her argument was simple. She said, why isn't it the case that if a hurricane hits a country like Barbados, that there is an immediate pause in its debt loan repayments for 2 years? And instead of repaying those loans, again, Malawi, a quarter of its revenues, it can use those revenues to invest in its schools, its hospitals, rebuilding homes in a way that they can withstand natural disasters. And the simplicity and the clarity around that idea, she was at first laughed at the room by Wall Street. And in the space of 12 months, she had the biggest lenders in the world, such as the World Bank, the UK, the US Treasury, saying that's a good idea. We will adopt that. And so this comes to the power of having a good goal when it comes to implementation. There's many problems in the world. We can diagnose problems. We can talk about challenges. But this was her idea. The second key principle is know your stakeholders and how to matter. You know, a good example I often use was back in 2015, we were focused on the eradication of polio. And there was this meeting, it was the final meeting the Queen attended of all these Commonwealth leaders, and they converged in the middle of the Mediterranean in Malta. And people said to me, how will you get Malta to prioritize this issue? They're neither a country impacted by polio, and they're neither a country which is a significant donor. So we had all of our global citizens around the world. We sent emails, we sent tweets, we sent letters to the editor, to the Prime Minister of Malta. And eventually we got an email back saying, I've gotten all your emails, letters, phone calls, etc. What about a phone call? What can we do? And we convinced the Prime Minister of Malta to put polio on the agenda, because what we basically said is this is an issue which will actually make a tangible, concrete difference. And that was the moment the Commonwealth renewed its partnership to polio. And now, just last year, there was 12 cases of polio worldwide. And we're now on the brink of making it just the second human disease in history to be eradicated. The third principle I talk about briefly is embrace pragmatic idealism. You know, there are many examples around the world where people have great ideas, they're great idealists, but they don't know how to implement them. Woodrow Wilson, just last weekend, it was 100 years since his death. He had the great idea of the League of Nations. How do you prevent conflict ever taking place again in the world? And yet people assume that when he brought his idea back to America, that isolationists in the American Senate voted it down. But that wasn't the case. There was a chorus of the willing, actually willing to partner with Woodrow Wilson and say, we'll make some adjustments, but can you vote? And he said, no, it's my way or the highway. It's a cautionary tale. Again, to finish on this last story, Mia Motley, you know what she did? When we were in Paris, 19 days in office, the new president of the World Bank, she stood on stage. We had everyone from Billie Eilish to President Lula, 20,000 raving climate activists. And President R.J. Banger of the World Bank said, you know what, Mia, I'm going to make a commitment that I'm going to put in every new agreement from the World Bank. I'm going to put a clause in that if there's a natural disaster, there will be an automatic break in repayments. And for a country like Barbados, that's the equivalent of 15% of its economy, $700 million. And as she made this announcement, she thanked President Macron for hosting this extraordinary summit, right? And basically supporting her agenda. And President Macron was not popular in Paris at the time. And they started booing and they said, Macron must resign. He must resign now. And Prime Minister Motley, who is a hero, a leader of the climate movement, was faced with this, fork in the road, if you like. And she turned around and she said, against all the booing, very intimidating, 20,000 people, she said, "My friends, I hear you. But whether you like it or not, of all the world's wealthiest economies, the only one supporting and standing up for small island nations on the front lines is President McCrum. You may not like that, but that's our reality." And I saw it, and suddenly the audience stopped booing, and there was a silence, and then they broke out in applause. And I think this idea of pragmatic idealism, how do you get things done in a divided era, often means engaging with people we don't like. And that comes to my final point, is communicate stories of success. The research, by and large, shows that when we have an example of impact in our own communities, when you make a difference, whether you get a response, one of the best things you can do is share that with your friends or family. Because in an era where people lack trust, they still trust their localized circuits. And one of the best ways to show that you can make a difference is to show that indeed we have already made a difference as well. And so this is at the core of this book, From Ideas to Impact. There's many examples around the world, and I want to finish with a brief survey. This is your chance to earn a copy for free, as Ben said, and it will also measure if you've been listening to this presentation. The first is, what is a policy entrepreneur? Can they be a professional lobbyist?
Nick, we've got a special Mentimeter quiz which is going to track all of the results. So we're going to get over to the quiz right now. So we won't give them too long to think about it, because speed will help determine who's going to get a book. But let me just jump in there, Mick, and say thank you for that great presentation. We're going to jump on and do the quiz now. If you want to stop screen sharing for a moment. And Mick, congratulations again on the book and those lessons, those 8 lessons that you've distilled from your incredible experience over the last decades and a half in this space. Really extraordinarily valuable as we go from ideas to impact. And we're really proud, Mick, of what you and the Global Citizen team have achieved these years. And if you want to stop screen sharing there, and I'll bring the quiz up for everybody to do the quiz live, so they'll actually be interactive. And if you want to, there's players that are ready. The link's in the chat. You need to stop screen sharing there, Mick, if you can. Thank you. Thank you. Stay with us, Mick. We're going to do the quiz right now. So let's jump into it. Hopefully you're paying attention. There's a link here. You can open your phones and open the QR code. And when we've got people ready, this will only take a minute or so, but jump in there. The link is in the chat. So you can either get there that way, or you can open it on your phone through the QR code. You can see we've got 44 players ready to play. We'll give it another 30 seconds, 46, 47. So let's take it. Okay, 30 seconds. Well, they're all coming now. People want the book. They want the book. This is the healthy competitive nature. What we're going to do, guys, is there's 3 questions. And you're going to get points for the right answer, but you're also going to get points for speed. So the quicker you are. And then the top 7 winners are going to get, courtesy of this symposium, a copy of Mick's book. And so we'll just get the top 7, the 3 questions. If you can send that to Irina@Unity.earth, we'll put that in the chat. But are you ready? Ready, set, let's go with the first question. Let's go. We got 87 players ready to play. Let's go. Answer fast to get more points. Are you ready for this one? Policy entrepreneur can be, look at your device, it's going to be a professional lobbyist, an activist, an everyday citizen, or all of the above. So those answers are coming in. You've got 6 more seconds to answer that one. Okay, we've got a few there that have got all of the above, which is the correct answer. Okay, next question. Let's go to the next one. Question 2 of 3. Are you ready for this one? Okay, after this, we'll get to a leaderboard and then one more question. Answer fast to get more points. You ready? Who is an example of a successful policy entrepreneur? From Mick's presentation, is it Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados, Woodrow Wilson, Rotary Clubs, or both A and C? You got 5 seconds left to answer that one. Who's an example of a successful policy entrepreneur? Well, right. Good. The answer was both A and C. Mick mentioned the Rotary Clubs and the incredible work that they do. So moving on to, there's a leaderboard. We got one more question. You can see the leaderboard there. There's the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Reverend Jeffrey up the top, followed by Eddie, Dr. Centipede, Nancy, Joanne, Snuggles. But there's one more question. Our very own Rebecca Suzik is in there, as well as Sylvia and Jackie. Well done if you're on the leaderboard. Let's get to the last question. You ready? Let's go. Third and final question. Ready to go. 82 players ready to go. Let's go. Answer fast to get more points, and this will determine the top 7. What are 3 principles of policy entrepreneurship? Okay, the 3 principles. Know your policy goal. Embrace pragmatic idealism. Communicate stories of success, or all of the above. What are your answers to 3 principles of policy entrepreneurship? Time is up. Most of you got the correct answer. Of course, it's all of the above. So let's go to the leaderboard and let's see the leaderboard from Ideas to Impact. That's calculating the judges. All right, there it is. There it is. So Eddie, let's just confirm that. There's a few changes, late changes. Eddie, Dr. Centipede, Joanna, Nada Travisa, Snuggles, Rebecca Suzik, Sylvia, and Yanni Maniatis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I do want to jump in because I just want to give a big apologies to all those who said Mia and not Rotary, because in the interest of time, I cut a final story on the Rotary Club. So my apologies on there. But if you put Mia, you were 100% that she was a policy entrepreneur and Rotary as well. So just want
Beautiful, Mick. Well, thanks for that. So everybody who's there, so Eddie, Nancy, Dr. Centipede, Joanna, Nada, Snuggles, and Rebecca Suzik, I think that's the top 7. Please email Irina@Unity.earth, and that'll obviously be in the chat. And we will get you, courtesy of this symposium and the many partners and sponsors, advanced copies of Mick Sheldrick's brand new book, From Ideas to Impact. Mick, that was fun and really uplifting education. You're doing incredible work in not an easy context. The bureaucratic policy making, I mean, that takes a long commitment, a long-term vision, a long-term policy. I'm sure there are many disappointments and challenges along the way. Maybe one day we'll have a longer conversation with you about your journey, because I think it's fascinating. Looking forward to reading the book. And there's 200 plus people there in the audience and also streaming out online. They're really engaged by what you shared today, Mick. So thanks for being with us and all the best with the launch.
Well, thank you to everyone. Thank you, Ben. And I'll leave you with one final quote from my hero, Eleanor Roosevelt. The best way to begin is to begin, and I hope this has given you a small start. My apologies again for skipping a story. Thank you, Ben. This has been fantastic, and looking forward to partnering with you and maybe joining the Q&A later. Thank you.
Good on you, Mick. Thank you so much. Very good. Very inspiring. Great to see such grounded, practical wisdom being applied in a pragmatic way. I love that idea of pragmatic idealism. There's a lot for us to take from there.